Good morning. Welcome to Deacon Jody Daily. This is the first of two Deacon Jody Dailies today because what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the first reading from the second reading and do two separate videos because I have two different themes for them. I'm glad you're with me. If you are enjoying these videos, please like them and share them as much as you can. And always, I appreciate you if you would subscribe to the YouTube channel and then follow my Deacon Jody Moscona Facebook page. So with that, let's talk about 2 Samuel chapter 7, 4 through 17. This is the great story that follows David suggesting to Samuel that he will build the temple. And Samuel says, oh yeah, go for it, that's great. And then that night, the Lord reveals to Samuel in a dream to go tell David, no, it's not you that is to build the temple. Actually, it's going to be his son Solomon, and David's going to go get all the stuff for the temple and leave it for Solomon. So David has a hand in it, but he doesn't actually build it. And the setup for this is that they've been keeping the ark in a tent forever, and finally they're going to build a permanent dwelling to house the ark. Now, David, it appears on the face of it, has pure motives for this. He's thankful to the Lord. He wants to provide for the Lord, and that's where one of the commentators that I was reading said David kind of got it a little bit wrong, and I want to talk a little bit about that because there's some words in this reading that match some things that were in the divine office readings today, and I'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the gospel later. So, what did this commentator say? He said, David is thinking he needs to take care of God. Like, I'm going to build you a house. I'm going to build you a... And in this reading, over and over again, what God tells Samuel to tell David is that God is the one that called David from taking care of the sheep to be king. God is the one that provided the victories, all those different victories, and they lay them out. There's a whole bunch of them. And so God is telling David that I am the one that provides for you. In essence, you don't provide for me, And that's where the suggestion was made in this reading I was having, that perhaps David is a little prideful, thinking that he can provide for God, where God is the provider of everything. Everything on earth comes from God, and that gives rise to this whole Ignatius indifference idea that nothing on earth is ours. We should not feel in possession of things because it really is God's, and we're just the beneficiaries of a loan, basically. And so we're beneficiaries. And so I think there's an interesting part in that. And the reading goes so far as to say that I'm going to set you up, David, forever, that your lineage will last forever. Of course, there is a captivity. He actually says, let me back up, that he will take care of his son, that he will not turn his back on his son like he turned his back on Saul. So there's promise here, and he promises the longevity. But there's the mention of covenant in here. And I want to bring up a fact that in the divine office reading today from Deuteronomy, it says that you may enter into the covenant of the Lord your God, which he concludes with you today under this sanction of a curse. And it goes farther to say that I am making this covenant under this sanction of a curse. He keeps going on. Several times he warns them that you need to be faithful to the covenant or there will be a curse. Don't do this. Don't go with the pagan people. Don't do, he says, um, if you do that, the Lord's wrath and jealousy will flare up against that person, and every curse mentioned in this book will alight on him. Why am I bringing this up? Because our relationship with God is one of covenant, and covenant is kind of a loving relationship that has obligation, value, and risk. And the obligation is that we follow the covenant, that what God tells us to do, we do. We follow his commandments. That was the message yesterday, the day before. Follow the Lord's commandments. And so what happens when we don't? That's when we are subjected to the curse. Now, is the curse imposed upon us? No. This is where I was talking the other day of natural law. See, natural law has natural consequences. When we're in alignment with the natural law, we have natural consequences, okay? So when we violate natural law, we are subjected to the consequences of that violation. And I don't, I try not to be too judgmental or overbearing in these videos because, you don't know who is watching, but we have to stay true, okay? So I'm going to just say this, and if you disagree with me, you can message me and be mad at me. But when we follow the natural order, from Genesis, that God created them male and female, he created them, and the man took the woman as his wife, and that's how the world was established. Well, that excludes same-sex relationships. Now, when you're in covenant with the way the natural order is, that's when fertility happens. That's when you have societies based on family and so on. What happens when you deviate from that, you move away from the natural order, and then you subject yourself to the problems. And, there's all kinds of problems that come from the whole same sex situation. I'm not going to get into them, but you know what they are. So, one of the consequences, something that I was talking to an individual yesterday about at lunch, about the fact that in some countries, the um, the society is being transformed because the um, the Christians have contracepted themselves almost out of existence. If your fertility rate, your reproduction rate is not 2.1 children per couple, um, presumably married couple, then your society is going backwards, and you're losing. You're not keeping up, and what happens is this is the devolution of the family in the Christian sense. And we're experiencing that in a lot of countries, and it's close to that in the United States. Now, the risk that we as Christians have is that on the Muslim side, they're complying. They're having children. Their fertility rate is over 8. So they are supplanting Christians in a lot of countries, and you see that in France and European countries, where the fertility rate of Christians is below 1 and the Muslims is above 8, and now you're getting a transformation of the society from a Christian society to a Muslim society, and it's because of contraception, which the church says contravenes natural law, because there are natural ways to uh, to uh, plan the growth of your family, and when you deviate from that, you have, as Deuteronomy says, okay, the curses. So I'm not going to belabor it, but I want to go back to David and say that God says, if you're faithful to me, then you'll get the blessings. And the blessing is that his son will do the temple, the Lord will not take his favor away from his son, and that his lineage will last forever. Despite the fact that the Israel people, Jewish people, deviated from the covenant, were subjected to the curse when the Assyrians took over and they were sent into exile, they do come back, and the kingdom is extended through Jesus Christ. And that's the message for today, that God is faithful to his covenant if we are faithful to him. So with that, I hope this video makes some sense. I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to comment. The comments are wonderful. And if you have any, like I said the other day, if you have any topics that you'd like for me to do a video on, message me or however you contact me and let me know, and I'll be glad to do a video on it. So with that, you pray for me. I'll pray for you. God bless everybody.